Hello, this is Brendan Bingham for IT 143, assignment 3.1. So today we're going to talk about DDL, or data definition language, and how it works and a few of the constraints that go along with them. So DDL, like I said, is data definition language. It basically gives us different commands to, for example, create, drop, or alter a table, a database, kind of whatever you need to work on there. Some of the constraints that we talk about, I pulled up a YouTube video that was really helpful for me to explain the difference between primary keys and foreign keys. Essentially, just to summarize what's on the screen there, a primary key is a column or a set of columns that is uniquely identified in a specific table, whereas a foreign key kind of calls upon that primary key from another table and utilizes it in a new table. Primary key is used to make sure that you have unique identifiers for specific data, and then foreign key allows you to link that data to different tables. Not null constraint essentially just makes it so um, that data in the table cannot be empty. Default values means it has to be, you have to enter a specific, whether it's a 1 or a 2 or whatever it is. To write DDL statements, I've created a little table here just using the query editor there. Create table is just called test table. I've got 3 different parts to the table there. There's ID, which is going to be our primary key, which is a constraint there. I also added not null. You don't want the primary key to have empty information. First name, these are going to be varchar 20s is the type of data. You can make that integers, you can make that varchar means variable characters, so it can be a combination of numbers and letters. And that 20, you can change that. That's the, I guess, character limit there. I just put 20 because I figured names probably aren't going to be more than 20 characters. There's a bunch of different things you can do. You can do create table. You can also do here, you can do drop table, and then test table. And that's gonna, what that would do if I were to run this, it would actually delete that table from existence and get rid of all the data in it. You can also do, instead of drop, you can do alter. So if this table is already existing, you can do alter table, test table, and then you go down here and you could say, let me pull up this real quick. The alter table, and you're going to use it as add, and then you could name, you could add new columns and things like that. So you'd go add, and then if I wanted to do middle name, and then it'd be another varchar 20, and then once you run that, it would add another column to this table that's called middle name, and you could now have first name, last name, and middle name all on that same table. And that would just add it directly to that table. And then those constraints, a few of them. Primary key right there, not null. There's a whole bunch of different ones that you can use. Those are, the other one that we've been talking about is foreign key. So if you wanted to add ID varchar, varchar 20, and then foreign key. Also would want to make that not null. So then what that would do is also add, well, I guess you wouldn't want to do it on this one. You'd have to do it on a new table. So we'll give you an example of that real quick. Cool. So you want to make this the child table, so it needs to be above. Create table. We'll just call it names. And then you would do, make sure you do your open parenthesis there to actually create the data. You could add any kind of part of the data that you'd want here. We can just go middle name, and this will be a separate table that'll have the middle name. We'll go middle underscore name so it doesn't get confused on the syntax. And then you'd want to make that a varchar 20 as well. And then you could do ID, because you want to make sure you call the primary key from the parent table into the child table. So you do ID varchar 20, and you do foreign key, also not null. And what that's going to do is it's going to take this primary key from the parent table and it's going to add it into the secondary table, so that the ID for the middle name table is always going to match the ID for the first and last name, so that they don't get mixed up and confused. For the W3 schools, we have this here. The trial's over, so it's not going to show, but I went through all these. A couple of the questions I wanted to go through. The primary key and foreign key were specifically, I guess, interesting to me, and I wanted to make sure I understood them really well. So, primary keys must contain unique values and cannot contain null. That is true. Give it a second. Maybe. There we go. How many primary key constraints can a table have? Only one per table. How do you add a primary key to the ID column in an existing table? Altered table, persons, add primary key ID. What happens if you try to add a primary key to a column that contains null values? The operation will fail with an error, because you cannot have null values. The other one is the foreign key constraint, because they kind of go hand in hand, so it's important to understand both of them together. Foreign key constraint is used to prevent actions that would destroy links between tables. In a database relationship, what is the table containing the foreign key called? It is the child table. How do you drop a foreign key constraint? You use the drop constraint function. Can a foreign key reference a composite primary key? Yes, it can. What is the key difference between primary key and foreign key? A primary key ensures uniqueness, and a foreign key links tables together. And there's both of those. And then the two learning sources. I used two different YouTube videos. I kind of referenced this one before. It's from Database Town. I'll give the link to that in my text chat there. And then this one is from Data with Bara. This guy was really smart. It's a little bit longer of a video, but he goes through a lot of all the different DDL commands: create, alter, drop, all those different things, whether it's a database or a table or anything like that. Thank you.